Okay. So I'd like to introduce Vito Giovanetti, who's from Treasured. And Treasured is an online platform that's used to create interactive museums. So since the start of the pandemic, the importance of having a digital presence has become increasingly obvious, I'm sure as we've all noticed. With social distancing, restrictions on travel, lockdowns, many businesses and museums have shifted to offering ways for their community to engage with them digitally. For museums, creating online exhibits has provided a way for the public to enjoy the museum's collections from home. Treasured is a software company leading a vision to amplify the impact of arts and culture around the world. Delivering meaning and accessibility are the most crucial aspects of a connected online experience, and Treasured achieves this by offering an easy-to-use tool for writing and publishing online stories. And so with that, I will pass it over to Vito. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Em, for having me. I'm really excited to be here and have the opportunity of sharing more about Treasured and our vision, as well as giving a bit of a demo on how the experience works and how other local organizations are using Treasured. So wonderful to be here. To give some I'll share my screen, and then I'd love to just give some backstory into the company. So can you see my screen? Perfect. All right, so let's dive right in. So here we go. Yeah, so as mentioned, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Treasured. I wear multiple hats, but I mainly lead everything business. And really, I'm focused on communicating Nikita and I's vision around the world. So I'm really grateful to be here today to share our vision in Saskatchewan and to more organizations that are really trying to make an impact in their community. To begin, I'd like to share a bit of a personal story, which is behind the company itself. And I think many will be able to relate to this story. But as you can see here, there's an image of my Italian grandmother. She's sitting in the center of this photo. And it was just at the start of her immigrant journey, which was really a story, like many, of sacrifice and fearlessness. And that really paved the way for me to become my family's chief historian. So a few years ago, I decided to put a family photo album together that focused on this immigrant journey. And while constructing this album, I lost, a damaged photo that was irreparable. That was an interesting experience. But when we finished the album, my family viewed it, they put it on a shelf and they sort of never really looked at it again. And, it wasn't because really my family didn't care or value the efforts. They did. It just was that it was put into sort of a medium that wasn't engaging to them, right? And what I realized is that, as time passes, a lot of the knowledge behind these stories, whether they're individuals in the community or organizations that represent the communities that they're a part of, that these stories are sort of leaving with the generation that created them. And this is the very premise that really inspired Nikita and I to build a platform that could preserve stories in an accessible and engaging way for all ages, not just seniors, but also younger audiences who are, digital natives in a way. So for me, this opportunity is, the opportunity to build a platform to preserve stories and to engage audiences of the community, really centered around this problem that we're facing across Canada with senior isolation. And that's sort of where I introduced this photo, which is a photo I took way back in 2018 of my 9-year-old grandmother. And this photo spoke a lot of emotions and speaks a lot of emotions because it is truly a real life image of senior loneliness. And that's not factoring in the current pandemic experience that we've had. So it was really, this, problem around preserving stories and engaging community and combating some of the problems that are emerging across Canada that really inspired Treasured to innovate a platform that people of all ages could use. So with that foundation, I'd love to tell you more about Treasured, and throughout the presentation, we'll highlight, how the organization has evolved to form collaborations within the community to reach more people. So this is sort of a beginning agenda. We'll go through we talked a little bit about what we're driven by in our mission. We'll talk more about the problem that we're trying to address. We'll talk how the platform sort of works, and I'll give a bit of a demo, and then we'll walk through some other pieces to wrap up on some of the momentum Treasured has been building. So, as mentioned, we were really inspired by this social isolation problem that's facing a lot of seniors, 30%, matter of fact, across Canada. And when seniors are socially isolated, it leads to a problem of being underutilized, undervalued, unengaged, and they have so much to contribute to the community. As many of you already know, a lot of heritage organizations are really powered by community volunteers that are seniors and are retired. And really what Treasured is trying to provide is a user-friendly online platform for organizations to curate, review, and publish community-generated stories, knowledge, and collections. We know collectively that in 2021, museums are challenged to form these deeper connections in their community, but also do so in a way that's accessible for online programming, and providing some training to support the adoption of these new technologies. So as we get into the value that Treasured provides, we're very focused on some of these key areas. So beyond me, there's a team that's really has been powered to solving this problem over the last couple of years. And you can see Treasured's co-founder and chief technical officer, Nikita Verbe, on the right of this photo. We have 15 other team members supporting this vision, who are all inspired by human connection and storytelling. And that really pinned our vision to helping organizations develop online exhibits and immersive 3D spaces. So with these two offerings, you'll get a better sense of how we're sort of innovating. And it's really around accessible online exhibits, inclusive history preservation, focusing on key projects that various institutions across Canada are prioritizing, and then forming these intergenerational connections, bridging seniors to a younger demographic through the stories that they're telling. Making the platform easy to use is critical. So we'll talk a little bit next about one of the success stories that Treasured has had in 2021 with a cultural and heritage organization in Ontario. So this organization is called the King Heritage and Cultural Center. And when they came to Treasured, they were looking for a way to that wasn't the municipal website, or that wasn't getting on one of these website builders, but was a way for them to organize stories, measure performance of content, and be able to determine what stories out of their collection in the community were the most popular, the most engaging, or the most interesting. So they set out to create an online exhibit called Stories of King. And initially, this exhibit had 10 stories, all stories pulled from a physical collection that they have on site. And some of these stories were inspired by the physical collections that were on site. So in many ways, they picked some stories that they already knew had some existing traction. And it was a way for them to measure and determine the overall engagement of the online exhibit itself, but the specific narratives that they have woven and curated into the Stories of King collection. So they launched that exhibit with great success. In the first 2 months, they had over 2,000 views, which is something or visitors, which is something they had never sort of been able to measure or capture previously. And with that success, they actually expanded to introduce 3 new stories, which you'll see. One of those is a audio-based story where they engaged community voice actors from a local high school to read excerpts of transcripts from the archive. And it's become a really popular story in the community that's been shared a lot. And once they sort of expanded this collection to 13 stories, they said, we want to take the next step with Treasured and we want to offer an immersive space. So that's just what we did. You can see, we'll do a demo of that shortly, but you can see that, that was featured in the Globe and Mail with Treasured. So they got some really great exposure around the exhibit and attention around how they were reaching out to their community. And right now, they've proceeded to start their second exhibit where they're working with a set of recent graduates from a local university to develop a community curated exhibit, which is set to debut in June. So this is sort of a case study with one client. We will talk about how Treasured supported this case study and King and the curators to really producing such a successful outcome. But before we kind of dive into those specific aspects, I'd love to bring sort of some of my words from imagination to reality, and we will do actually a live demo. So just give me a quick moment here, and I'll just bring that up. So hold on. Can you see my screen?
I can still see where it says
the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just do a new share, and then you'll be able to see it. Okay, so great. Can you see my screen now? Awesome.
Yes.
So here we are. I've landed now on the Stories of King exhibit as a visitor. One nice thing about Treasured is that if you're a visitor, you don't have to sign in to view any content. It's a very accessible experience when it comes to the visitor right now. Whether you're viewing this content on a big monitor, a small laptop, a tablet, or a mobile phone, the content, the images, it all resizes for the devices automatically. It's no additional work on the curator or the organization putting together the collection and the stories. So you can see here, they give a little bit of a description on what Stories of King is about, but they also have this sort of introductory story that I can navigate to on this sidebar here, or this table of contents, where they can highlight about their site, the history of their site, their archival collection, their curators, and really just giving a profile more on the physical site, because at the end of the day, that's really what this is intending to complement. It's intending to capture an audience online and get them also intrigued to come and actually visit, but also the existing membership base that they already have, that they are now providing additional membership benefits through this sort of personal, customized publication to King. So you can see here, they have a set of stories. I can scroll them as the visitor and, pick which one I want, either based off the image or the name or based off the order. So let's just go, I'll just pick on the story I mentioned that they expect in their expansion. It's called Dear Diary. This is the audio-based story that they developed in their community. So you can see they've added some, graphical imagery to the story itself, a little bit of a description. about the diaries that they're profiling and the person that wrote the diaries. And then you can see that there's a set of audio, and you can just, I'm not sure if I've shared my audio, but as I play this, actually, I might just try to share it with my audio here. Just give me a second. So you can see here.
27th, 1875. I have started this journal in a fresh book. What I shall experience before it shall be filled no one earthly knows.
So
perhaps
a little
I
bit
shall
of some
never
fun
live to fill it.
storytelling that's setting it up.
But if
But
I
you
do,
can actually see the voice
certain it
actors
is
here in the
that
story,
all will
which
not
sort of
be
brings it
sunshine.
full circle with the community and
March
the high school and the
31st,
neighborhood.
1875.
So I'll just stop
This is
the
my
sound
birthday,
here, but
so they tell me.
it gets really exciting, and people really sort of enjoyed this story. I think it's been a breakout hit from the time that they've released it. So several hundred visitors and listens on each of those audio clips. And as a visitor, once you're done the story, you have these sort of buttons to navigate left or forward and backward. So we can move to the next story, and we can see that each story that they're writing is sort of designed in a unique way. Some have more images, some have more text. All of them have text references. And you can see some have links to other content or other resources, and leverage various graphics that they have in the collection. And in some cases, the curators have built, their own image panels on like Canva and like imported those images into here as well. So you can always see that at the end of the story, there's kind of some more information about this specific project or how to reach out to King. So always promoting. This is the most popular story in the entire collection, Frozen Charlotte, a good story of a mother telling her daughter to wear her jacket when on a night out, and then they froze. And then it sort of connects to the Charlotte dolls. And they developed a bit of a video here, an animated video, which has a bit of a song. And this has been a really popular story in their online programming that they do with local elementary schools. And you can see here's a little image of the doll, and really you can see each story has a bit of its own look, feel, and approach, to kind of make it more exciting for the viewer. Even if, these aren't real bowling balls, they speak to the bowling alley and that it was prohibited, and it's sort of a fun graphic for the content. So treasured all along the way with every heritage organization we work with, we support in providing feedback in the content development process. So at the end, once they finished all of their stories, we encourage them to make this thank you for reading section, where they can capture reviews on the exhibit itself, direct contact information, links to their social media, and obviously details and directions to the physical site, which is a really important thing, especially as we're coming out of the pandemic across the nation. So this gives you a great sense of what building a online exhibit on the Treasured platform looks like and sort of is from a visitor standpoint. In terms of its creation, I've signed into another account, which is an exhibit that has become really popular for Treasured, which is the Museum of American War Letters. It's something you can visit on the treasured.ca website. But what you're sort of seeing here is that the editing experience to write these stories is very simple as the viewing experience. They're very connected in a way visually to make it simple. So you can see I just hit this edit button in the top right corner, and it turns that entire story into an editable environment. So I can, make adjustments to the title, let's say like this, and it'll just save automatically. You can see changes saved. So you don't actually even need to hit done to save changes, just automatically saving as you're using it. You can have, and this is a great example, different subtitles. So if you look at the bottom here, there's a toolbar, which is very similar to any word processing tool. Whether you are trying to bold something, italicize it, underline it, add a link, make the text smaller. Let's make the text smaller. So we've turned that into paragraph text. Let's say we want to make it bigger or a subheading. Just click on subheading and it makes it, the sizes it a little bit different. When you add in images, they size for any device. It optimizes on our platform for any device. So you don't need to worry about what does the mobile version look like? What does the tablet version look like? This is a challenge with a lot of like web templates and a lot of the problems that a lot of organizations are already facing with their museum or with their museum's website, more specifically. So really Treasured and the content that you're seeing that can be developed here, it's really being linked onto the existing website that museums or local heritage organizations have, being added to link trees. So it's not replacing the website. It's sort of making it easier to publish content on that website and sort of manage it, more easily, because there's components beyond just, creating the content. So you can see here, there's a cover photo for a story where you can add the description, but we also have, various privacy permissions. So there is a whole phase of content development where these stories will remain private for the organization as curators or coordinators within the museum are reviewing the content, editing it, adding stuff in. And when it's ready, it goes to public, and you can sort of just grab this link here and share it with anybody. They don't have to sign in, and they will be able to view this story. And you can also see that you can embed YouTube videos and other content online. So yeah, this is sort of gives you a little bit of sense of the editing experience and the publishing experience. What there also is, and you'll see it on a further slide, is the analytics dashboard. And we can talk about the specifics in there, which is sort of a real bonus for a lot of organizations because they can use that dashboard for reporting and to reporting the impact that this project and that the annual subscription kind of gives to the organization. So one last thing before the demo is we want to just go to the Explore page here. So we also have a page where we are showcasing some of our early museums that are publishing their exhibits. We have several others that are in development right now for release later on in the summer. We recently had, for International Museum Day, the Museum on the Boyne publish their exhibit. So you can see a little bit of a different approach from King in that they're sort of summarizing the physical spaces that they have on site and some of the stuff that you can do at those spaces. They've also developed some media content that they're using and displaying here. And it's super informative. They're kind of showing their collection off. And really each, organization can sort of determine their own approach. And we're happy with the Treasure team to provide, feedback, direction on what we're seeing. The last thing that I wanted to kind of show in the demo, and then we'll get back to sort of the flow of today's presentation, is really around the 3D spaces. So we have some organizations like the Museum on the Boyne that are just on the starter plan, and they're just looking to publish like right now, just a 2D online exhibit, your traditional ones that we just went through, like this exhibit here. But what Treasured is really offering in addition to this, and this is sort of one of the intrigues from a lot of our collaborators, is being able to take that collection and showcase it in a space that fits the collection itself. So here we're jumping into the King Heritage and Cultural Center exhibit for Stories of King. And right now, all I'm doing is actually hitting the space bar. So you don't need to know how to navigate with controls, but it sort of makes for a little bit more of an immersive space to read the stories and the content itself. And I'll just kind of continue to sort of hit the space bar, and you can see that I will navigate through different stories. There's also some music playing in the background, but we're using these virtual spaces to also, connect to 3D models that might represent a particular story. In some cases, organizations have the capacity to now scan models in 3D or find similar models online, and we are working with organizations to display those effectively. So I'm gonna switch my screen share back to our presentation slideshow here. Just give me a second. And great stuff. And that really sort of gives a sense of the breadth.
Sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to let you know that. Oh yeah, we're good now. We could still hear the music. Just wanted to make sure.
Okay, let me get the music. Yeah. Alt tab. Oops, hold on. Just give me one moment. I can. Where's my mouse? There's my mouse. Okay. I think now we should be good.
Good to go. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Can you see my screen? Yeah. Wonderful. All right. So from there, you can get a breadth of what Treasured offers from a product standpoint. Really, that can be summarized in a couple of ways. Exhibition or content development, making that streamlined, easier, more collaborative with your team. A lot of the organizations we're working with are staffed between 1 to 3 people on these types of content projects. As I mentioned, obviously, analytics and reporting, you can see some of the information that is accessible that we can provide. So people that are a number of viewers, session duration, where are they referring from, what devices are they using, what stories are most popular. So there's a collection of different analytics that could be insightful to you and your teams. But I think before getting to the exhibition development and even to reporting, our team likes to sort of pride ourselves on the support and the hands-on approach that we have with all organizations that we're collaborating with currently. So that means like working through providing feedback, reading through the stories, addressing any like technical issues or technical training that you need. And then in terms of other value from a promotional standpoint, as I mentioned, we'll feature exhibits on our landing page, treasure.ca, on the explore page within the application. And also we produce social media content on our own social media channels that you can use on your own channels to promote the exhibit once it goes live. All of that is sort of like a bucket of value that we provide. But really we're seeing organizations, whether it's museums or libraries or galleries, use the content publishing capabilities in different ways. So for museums, some museums are very keen to focus on content that they're curating internally, but there is expression of interest from several organizations where they want to enable members of the community to write and draft content, and then for the organization to sort of approve that content and then publish it as like an organizational collection made by the community. So Treasured's working on these types of projects right now. And features will be rolling out more accessibly on this community curated experience throughout the summer. Basically, what it will allow organizations to do is to create a content project, determine and manage permissions and volunteer access, and assign community contributors to add stories. And this will allow sort of the administrator, if you will, to review the stories, request edits, and then publish the stories. And it is definitely something I wanted to mention because it's something we're seeing as sort of a trend that a lot of organizations are interested in, is how do we get more people from the community to contribute content to the collection or to the museum or to the stories that we're promoting. And that sort of leads a little bit more on like how the tool actually works, whether it's the museum curators that are using it or it's a community generated project. There's onboarding support for anybody that comes onto the Treasured platform. You'll be able to, like you've seen, draft stories in a word processor style format. You'll be able to organize photos, upload oral stories, and share those stories quite accessibly. Treasured's really known for the elements that you see in purple. We're technically a content management system by definition, but we really offer so much more and are going to continue to offer so much more to support the variety of heritage-based initiatives that are being led across Canada. So one of the key things that we really like to emphasize is you can collaborate with multiple people in the organization. When you're collaborating, the time that you're investing into that content development is accessible across any website, web device, or browser. And you'll be able to manage and control permissions on the content and the people that are contributing to it, while also monitoring what the visitor engagement and performance is over time. And I think that provides really a collective value to the organizations that we're working with. I mentioned that I didn't include like a pricing slide on this. So if anyone is interested in pricing, you can visit treasure.ca. We have a starter plan that's really for charities, nonprofit organizations, like personal projects. You can get started for $250. And then we have more of like a preferred plan for most museums, which is like $1,000. And you get all of everything that I talked about, including a template 3D space. So we're really trying to make these 3D spaces as well more accessible to organizations once they've developed content. Beyond those like base subscriptions, we do have like, different approaches with certain organizations that I'll mention at the end. Like we've co-collaborated on many grant applications over the past like 6 months, recommended different programs for members of the community to apply for funding, whether it was for a digital initiative or not. So we're really like immersed in sort of what's happening across Canada, obviously with various funding projects. So we participate in those projects as well as a digital provider. Over the last couple of months, we've been thankful to receive attention from various media outlets that have covered our story and the impact of the value we're creating in the heritage space. So from the Globe and Mail to the New York Times, to the Canadian Museums Association and leaders even at Microsoft that are trying to find ways to help museums go online and understand their challenges. The feedback has been really positive, and we're looking to share our story more and offer more impact. As you may understand, we're a fairly new company, but making a lot of impact. So we're always looking to kind of expand and find new collaborators and be flexible to work within the confines that the collaborators are dealing with, because we know there's a lot of different elements at play within the organization. We just want to be a complement to it. So, these are our impacts summarized in a few different points. We've submitted for over $200,000 of grant funding with partner organizations over the last 5 months. We intend to do more of that and be a supportive resource on those applications and speak to the expertise that we have on the digital side. When it comes to actual visitor times and session times for our content, it's 4 times the average. So we've been, able to continue to build on the actual outcomes of using the Treasured platform. And internally, we've grown our monthly website visits to 4,000. That continues to grow as we launch more exhibits with partner organizations. And that also means that you might launch your exhibit and then 3 months later, somebody else launches an exhibit, but that leads to more people checking out your exhibit as well. So there's like some cross networking that's taking place from our initial exhibits that have debuted. And we've been supported by a bunch of different organizations, featured at Roots Tech, one of the largest family history conferences in the world, for our museum and 3D museum platform. And we're continuing to just make an impact and try to support the community and grow. We've been building this strong reputation, but I think that's all ultimately only felt from really collaborating and getting to work together. So we understand it's a multifaceted process in any organization to pursue these types of projects. But I think from today's presentation, you can see that Treasured is really, taking the feedback that we're getting from our early customers and from museums and heritage organizations, really trying to input it into our platform to make it better. I come to this last slide, and I wanted to come to this last slide to bring you back to the story I started with. With the platform that we've developed, some of the impact, the grassroots impact, the impact at the end, the visitor impact, is that having a platform where stories are shareable and can be experienced and accessible very easily have a big impact. So, here's just a little video of, the outcomes from the project from 2018 to today, that younger members of my family who didn't care about the first project that I made documenting the immigrant story became much more engaged with the collections, and were actually able to contribute to the collections on the Treasured platform. But here's sort of a live video of my grandmother here going through some of the stories together, and just having so much joy in doing that. And speaking about this, this was us prior to the pandemic, as you can see by the date, but just throughout the whole pandemic, at times, even when we couldn't see, just being able to have access to these stories and click through made for a really sort of, heightened experience during the pandemic amongst the loneliness. So for us, I'd just like to conclude with saying, at Treasured, we believe storytelling is universal. Every organization, and especially I know in Canada and in Saskatchewan, we have a lot of powerful stories that are worth documenting and worth telling. And I think, we would be excited to work with anybody to heighten the impact of their collections and of the stories that they could tell. So if you're interested, in learning more, feel free to follow us on social media at Treasure Team. You can email us at the email there, team@treasure.ca. You can call us directly at that number. I will answer that number. And if you have any questions in the last 10 minutes here, I would be happy to answer them. So thank you everybody for your time, and I hope you enjoyed today's presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Vito. Yeah, so if anybody does have any questions, feel free to you can unmute yourself or raise your hand or however you'd like to do that, or you could also put your questions in the chat if you'd like. Well, and in the meantime here, it doesn't, or I just saw somebody pop up. Okay, I'll give folks a minute here, and if there's no questions, or if somebody just wants to is typing or whatever, I'll just give you a heads up on what our next community chat is going to be. So it'll be June 9th, and we're going to be joined by Vincent Hotelling, and he's going to talk about fundraising. So his presentation is When the Bake Sale Goes Stale, Fundraising Adaptation for Challenging Times. So something that we've been facing definitely as a museum sector in Saskatchewan. Many museums traditionally rely on event-based fundraising to support their operations, but the inability to gather safely has interfered with that model. So if you can't gather people or make food, what can you do? And so Vincent's going to talk about some innovative ideas about alternative fundraising methods. So yeah, that's going to be the next one on June 9th. But yeah, thanks so much, Vito. And yeah, I'm hoping if folks are interested, they'll reach out to you. And I know after having a chat with you there, I've spent some time kind of looking through some of the museums and stories and things. And I think it's really fantastic that you've developed such an easy to use platform, you know, for people across the sector. So thanks for all your work with that. It's great.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I've also pasted my LinkedIn for direct contact to anybody that wants to have more of a chat, whether you're interested about pursuing Treasured as a tool or not. I'm always happy to talk to you about different ideas that we're and strategies that we're picking up from other organizations across Canada that we're working with, and to support in any way possible. So thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, thanks, Vito. It was really interesting and really very well priced, I thought, for smaller institutions to be able to access this kind of technical support is great.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. We definitely want to be access first. So we're flexible with organizations. People will learn this more in terms of, payment schedules and stuff like that. We're trying to really adapt and kind of weather the pandemic storm together. So thank you, everybody, again.
Awesome. Well, have a great rest of your week, everybody. Thank you for joining us. And yeah, we'll see you at the next chat. Bye.